Hello and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition today, as always, also on Comcast, Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. We're on Birmingham area municipal access in Birmingham, Bingham Farms, Beverly Hills, and the village of Franklin. Also on the radio in Bloomfield Hills, 88.1 WBFH, The Biff. Online, CivicCenterTV.com. Click on our Watch Live link or view us on the small player at the top right of our homepage. And today, as always, as we have been the last couple weeks, on our Facebook pages, Facebook.com/CivicCenterTV15 and Facebook.com/LakesFM. And as always, joining me from her home studio in the city of Keego Harbor is Ronnie Dahl.
Hello there, Tyler. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Ronnie? And you too, Trixie.
You know, I think it was the excitement in my voice that got her going.
Absolutely. It's the excitement of this nice sunny Thursday morning here in the greater West Bloomfield area, in the Oakland County area, as we are over the hump this week, Ronnie.
It does feel like a Friday, doesn't it?
It does. It has a little bit of a Friday feel. It's not, though, so that's a little bit of a buzzkill, but, you know, we'll get through it.
But it is going to be beautiful over the next few days, so a good time to get out and enjoy the weather. And really, you know, the sunshine helps us get over the COVID-19 slump, doesn't it?
It does. It does help us get over it. It's been a lot more upbeat the last few days or so we've had the sun outside. Even though it's continued to be busy, it's continued to be a wild couple of weeks here, as the news cycle continues to always be, it seems, over the last couple of years. But the sun's definitely helping things seem like they're moving on the up and up here, Ronnie.
Hey, did you see the governor yesterday? As everyone knows, we did carry her press conference live, but it seems as if this scandal about her using the billionaire's plane to go to Florida, it's just not leaving. It's just not leaving. The questions aren't going away. So at this point in time, answer the questions.
Yeah, I would agree. We have a clip on our website, on our homepage. No, it's not on our homepage, but it is on our on-demand page from that press conference yesterday of Governor Whitmer answering a question regarding her recent trip to Florida to visit her ailing father. And she did kind of tiptoe around and say, I'm not going to give specifics, but the only thing she really did say that clarified it was this was not a gift. Now, and this has been pointed out by a couple of different journalists locally. Craig Mauger, I believe, is who I saw this from. There is a specific definition for gift as it relates to campaign finance and so on. And he's wondering, and he was reaching out for clarification from the governor's office about whether or not it meant this was not a gift within those means, or further clarification of did she pay for this out of pocket? Did her family pay for this trip? And how did this plane end up getting rented for this specific use? There's still a lot of questions there. And like you said, it's time for the governor to answer these questions. If it is just an innocent situation where you borrowed a billionaire's plane or you paid for the time out of your pocket to visit your ailing father in his time of need, I don't think a whole lot of people are going to hold that against you. What they are going to hold against you, as they should anybody in public office that is not answering very important questions and valid questions from the public, is you not giving the details at all, or trying to shoo it off as being nothing. That, if anything else, makes it seem like more of a something to the general public.
And when we put that together with the news of Chief Craig retiring from the Detroit Police Department, it is pretty much rumored that he is going to be running as the GOP candidate against Whitmer for the position of governor here in the state of Michigan. That will be a very, very interesting race.
Yeah, I think no matter how you put it, this gubernatorial race in 2022 is going to be very interesting. I mean, we saw the last race for governor here in the state of Michigan was a highly contested one, both in the primaries and in the general, between Governor Whitmer and former Attorney General Bill Schuette. I think it's going to be even more competitive this time. I think it's going to be on the level of competition of what we saw earlier on in 2020 between former President Trump and our now President Joe Biden, where it's going to be hotly contested. It's going to be a back and forth thing, and depending on who goes up against her, Governor Whitmer could be in some serious trouble in terms of trying to get reelected, especially now with all these questions about transparency in her administration.
Well, and that's the whole thing right there. You just kind of, I think that's going to be at the heart of the campaign.
Yeah.
Anyone who runs against the governor, that is going to be the heart of them trying to, talk about the lack of transparency when she ran on transparency. I mean, I could see the political ads already.
Oh,
I'm surprised they're not on by now.
yeah, I'm kind of surprised too that those that are exploring candidacy for governor, or at least the state's GOP, hasn't begun, their subtle or not so subtle jabs against the governor to prepare themselves for what's going to be a very hotly contested race for governor of Michigan in 2022. I mean, we're 5 months into 2021. We're not that far away from being in the election year itself. Usually around this time is when we start to see the race truly begin.
Hey, the big news coming out of Ohio yesterday, Governor DeWine announcing that they are going to have a drawing to try to get people to get vaccinated. People can win like $1 million, I believe it is, right?
I didn't see that story, but that is a very interesting. That's a very interesting contest that they've got going there. That's quite an enticing way to try to get people to go get vaccinated and kickstart the vaccination campaign over there in Ohio. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't imagine that's going to be something that's all too common across many states, unless they decide that that's other states maybe decide that that's the best way to use all that federal grant money.
Well, and that's what they're saying is it looks like it's going to be from the federal.
I would hope so.
Ohio's $1 million lottery prizes for vaccinations. So I know they're also trying to get students, the 12 to 17-year-olds vaccinated. And so of those 17 years old and under, they are going to be able to win a full 4-year scholarship. So it's really interesting how Ohio is looking at this. I want to pull it up online though, Tyler, to get the more details rather than just the headline. So the governor unveiled a lottery system Wednesday to entice people to get the COVID-19 shots, offering a weekly $1 million prize and full ride college scholarships as a creative way for people to overcome the vaccine hesitancy. Now, keep in mind, you do have to be a resident of the state of Ohio. And so beginning May 26, adults who have received at least one vaccine dose may enter a lottery that will provide $1 million prize each Wednesday for 5 weeks. Random drawings, the state will also provide 5 full 4-year college scholarships to an Ohio public university, including tuition, room and board, and books to vaccinated Ohio residents. Now that's an enticement I think a lot of people can get behind. We do know that the city of Detroit was offering those $50 gift cards as part of the Good Neighbor program. However, that does not apply to the 12 to 16 year or 12 to 15 year olds in this new round of the Pfizer vaccine. So a $50 gift card or the chance to win $1 million.
Yeah, it looks like Governor Mike DeWine is really taking the lead in trying to be the Willy Wonka of state governors here in the United States. That is quite the lofty idea there, quite the big creative idea of how to use federal grant money from the pandemic relief, and also try to fight the vaccine hesitancy and get Ohio to 70%. I think that's going to take in a lot of these states going forward as we continue to kind of ebb and flow from plateauing to slight increase to plateau to slight increase, and maybe even some decreases in weekly rates of vaccinations. It's going to take creative solutions to a complex problem to try to solve this vaccine hesitancy issue and get us to 70% or higher vaccination rate in our state and in other states as well as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so, but of course they are asking in Ohio, a lot of the businesses to entice people as well to get the vaccine by offering discounts or free items. And we do know the Indians, Cleveland Indians and the Reds are offering discounts with tickets if you want to go to one of their games. I don't think that would work so well with the Tigers.
I don't think so. I think the Tigers might have to do $1 million giveaway themselves to try to get people to be season ticket holders. Hey, if you sign up to be a season ticket holder, we may or may not pay you $1 million to watch our god-awful baseball for an entire year.
I could see this actually working in Ohio. Now, of course, here in the state of Michigan, we do know that yesterday the governor was talking about trying to get doctors to enroll as the COVID-19 vaccine providers. So the state of Michigan is asking all primary care physicians to enroll as vaccine providers in an effort to expand vaccinations across the state as children ages 12 to 15 become eligible. The call to primary care physicians expands vaccine administration efforts that have so far largely been the responsibility of community vaccination clinics and pharmacies. So Wednesday, as we know, the CDC did approve the use of the Pfizer vaccine on adolescents. And keep in mind, this is still under the emergency use provision. So Chief Medical Executive Dr. Jonae Khaldun said the state wanted to make the process as simple as possible for doctors and by extension for individuals and families seeking the vaccine. So really an interesting time here in the state of Michigan. Of course, CVS is already booking people as well, Tyler. For those 12 to 15-year-olds. Keep in mind, though, you are going to need a parent or legal guardian consent and have a parent with you as well.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those less creative maybe than the $1 million giveaway, but creative solutions to the vaccine hesitancy issue while also to the vaccine distribution issues as well, as to provide these to primary care providers, that individual Michiganders trust. They go to them with for regular health. They're in their community. It's people that they know, people that know them, and it's experts that they can talk to regularly and in quick succession and know that they know you and they know your family, and you're going to get honest answers that relate to your health from these experts in your local community. And I think that could help immensely with curbing or at least relieving in some cases some of this vaccine hesitancy, and at the very least getting people informed on these vaccines that may be on the fence so that they can make a more informed decision. I mean, we talked about this yesterday with Dr. Jamie Tawil a little bit, and him saying essentially that he would like to provide vaccines to his patients. It was a matter of getting them there, but we need to be a little less, and we need to be a little less aggressive with, sort of rejecting and alienating people that are vaccine hesitant and encouraging them instead to talk to healthcare providers in their community to get their questions answered and maybe get some of their worries relieved from experts that they trust.
Well, and we do know that the vaccine prior to this time, as Dr. Tawil was mentioning, is not and has not been made available to so many of the primary care doctors because it is still being authorized only under that emergency use. So this is a little bit different. And keep in mind, I wonder too if this is just going to be the Pfizer vaccine that they're trying to provide to the primary care doctors, because so far only Pfizer has been permitted to be used in adolescents. Hey, no surprise here, a new poll finds public health has a trust problem. The public doesn't trust our public health agencies. That's according to a new poll by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. The survey of about 1,300 people was conducted mid-February to mid-March of this year. Overall, only about 52% of Americans have a great deal of trust in the CDC. Other health agencies were even lower. Only 37% of Americans said they had a lot of trust in the National Institutes of Health or the Food and Drug Administration. So Robert Blendon, who is the professor who oversaw the studies, said we're in a period of distrust of government in general, and trust in public health during a pandemic is incredibly high stakes because public health measures like mask wearing and business restrictions can't work as intended to contain a pandemic if the community doesn't believe they're based on reliable information. So the poll found that trust isn't just a problem for federal health agencies. State health departments have the trust of 41% of Americans. Local health departments did a little bit better, 44%.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't help either that we're living in the age of immense misinformation and disinformation out there, and it's at the fingertips of people each and every day on social media, on other internet outlets that maybe aren't very reliable, and that certainly doesn't help with this mistrust in public health organizations. And then on top of that, you take into account that this has been a very treacherous year for everybody and in the health community as well, finding out information and learning and disseminating information about a novel coronavirus that they really didn't know A versus B about, and we're learning along the way. A lot of people interpreted that learning curve along the way as, well, what is it? Is it A or B? These people don't know what they're talking about. Why should I trust them? So it's not exactly surprising that there is this mistrust in these government and public health organizations because of the situation that we're in with this pandemic, learning about this new novel coronavirus that's been afflicting us for over a year. And on top of that, the general mistrust in government that we've seen over in the past several years continue to increase as, like we go back to our previous stories this morning, transparency continues to be a major issue.
And with that, hey, if you're on unemployment, just so you know, you're soon going to have to prove that you're searching for work or you risk losing your benefits. The work search requirement is about to restart here in the state of Michigan, meaning unemployed people must prove they're looking for work if they want to keep getting benefits. The requirement was halted in March 2020 when the pandemic started. So the Michigan Unemployment Insurance Agency hasn't been enforcing it since. However, starting sometime soon, the UIA will begin enforcing it again, according to posting on its website, although they have not set an exact date, but expect it to become mandatory again sometime later this month. So the work search requirement applies to everyone on unemployment, including state and federal programs. To satisfy the work search requirement, applicants must report one work search activity per week. That includes applying for jobs in person or online, attending job fairs or employment workshops, or searching job listings on websites such as Monster, LinkedIn, or MichiganTalent.org. So the UIA will ask when and how you applied for each job and ask for the company's contact information. Lately, though, some employers have had issues with ghost applicants. They apply for a job but never show up for an interview, as they only apply to satisfy this requirement. And I'm sorry, but if you're unemployed and you're collecting tax dollars, don't they say looking for a job should be like a full-time job? Really? One little thing, I can do an online application and that satisfies me for me to continue to get my benefits? What if I said that? Hey, to my employer, you know what? I worked one day, but just go ahead and pay me for the rest of the week.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big issue with this is you're bringing back the job search requirement, but it's a very light requirement. So it's good that they are bringing back some requirement, but it's literally one, as it says in this article. It is one job search per week. It can be as simple as submitting an application, providing contact information. I think the biggest concern here with that and making sure that is a legitimate job search is going to be whether or not those that are providing that information to the UIA are participating in these ghost applications where they submit applications and then don't show up for the interview. It's one thing to go through that process and then decide that this isn't the right company to work for or this isn't the right industry to be in at that time. It's a whole different thing to provide an application and then do nothing with that. And I think that's going to be the major concern here for the UIA is that's the next hurdle to get over as they put these requirements back in place and try to ensure that people are searching for work while they're receiving unemployment benefits, as is normally a requirement.
Yeah, but we do know that the UIA is overworked and understaffed.
Yes.
So it's really going to be hard for them to be able to keep up with this. And just before we were coming on, McDonald's posted some of their jobs. They're going to be paying $20 an hour to work at McDonald's. Yeah. And, that's great. I will say, but I'm like, for so many people that, worked their way up or went to college, it's kind of like, okay. So, hey, if you're out there and you're working and you say that, 10, 20, 30 bucks or $10, $15 is not enough, go to McDonald's, they'll pay you 20 bucks. But if you're getting paid 20 bucks an hour, deliver the service with a smile at least.
I think in that case they would. That is well above a livable wage right there, and I think that would be something that would be a competitive wage that would entice people to go back to work. So, if there's a McDonald's paying $20 an hour, I think that's going to have a lot of people in line trying to get that job.
Yeah, we'll see. There will be a lot of people in line come September when the federal benefits roll out. Because we do know that Starbucks, I believe they offer full-time after I think it's like 32 hours a week, college tuition reimbursement, full benefits. They have a great package, and even Starbucks is struggling right now to get enough employees. So the struggle continues. And of course, you can always find the latest headlines. Just go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus. And with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast Thursday edition ahead. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about fitness in the middle of the pandemic. Are you back into a routine yet? If not, how can you get back into it? That's next here on the Megacast.
In times like these, we have to believe in each other.
And we believe that you'll do the right thing
when it comes to stopping the spread of COVID.
Follow the 3 W's.
Wear a mask.
Wash your hands.
Watch your distance.
And when it's your turn to get the vaccine, take your shot.
It all comes down to the golden rule.
Treat others the way you want to be treated.
We're so close, Michigan.
We can do this together.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
I want to get back to seeing my grandbabies every Sunday and smothering them with big hugs and kisses.
I want to get back to football games with my boys.
I want to get back to feeling and touching, connecting with the people around me.
I want to get back to family dinners and my grandma's mac and cheese.
I want to get back to real grocery shopping, taking my time, walking down every aisle, smelling the tomatoes and melons, having a free sample or 2 or 3.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the first step that let us get back to feeling optimistic about the days ahead of us. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I get it?
Should I wait?
Now, get the facts. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Great to have you with us on this Thursday morning. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the home studios. Mr. Tyler Keefe holding things down for us back there in West Bloomfield. As a reminder, you can always catch us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon, live Civic Center TV, Birmingham area municipal access. If you have cable, thank you. Channel 15 on Comcast, 99 on AT&T. You can also listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM, The Biff. Or if you're at work, in your home office and you're tired of all your Zoom meetings, just go ahead and click over to Facebook and you can watch us live there as well on our Facebook page. You know, for so many of us, exercise is really about a routine. And at the beginning of the pandemic, our routines were halted as gyms were closed. And even though they've been allowed to reopen, it's still been hard for people to get back to the level of their fitness commitment that they were prior to the pandemic. Let's bring in Michael Stack with us here on the Megacast. He's the CEO and exercise physiologist for the Applied Fitness Solutions. Thank you for being with us, Michael.
Thank you for having me, Ronnie. I appreciate it.
How many people do you think abandoned the routine because of the shutdown and have yet to get back into it?
Well, the numbers are actually pretty interesting when you look at them nationally. The National Trade Association for the Fitness Industry tracks these. And although we're seeing an increase in numbers of people coming back to the gyms and fitness centers, we do know that utilization rates dropped by 60, 70% early in the pandemic. We've slowly started to see them increase. Here in Michigan, we're under some significant capacity restrictions still. Our gyms and fitness centers are only at 30%, whereas other places in the country, they're 70% are fully reopened. To answer the question specific of how many people are resuming their exercise routine, I think that what we're seeing is that the people who were exercisers prior to the pandemic and really had a habit of doing so, those people found a way to continue their exercise during the pandemic. The population that I'm much more concerned with is the inconsistent exercising population.
That's me, by the way.
that's a lot of people. And it's quite frankly, the people who probably need to do it the most for their health. Those are the people that fell off as the pandemic started, and they're finding it a real struggle to start back up. So I think that is the bigger concern for our industry, is how we can reconnect with the inconsistent exerciser.
So with that, Michael, I know that so many gyms, yours including, have tried to go virtual. How is that working?
Well, I think a lot of us who have found a way to survive during this period of time had to go virtual. And certainly it's an investment. I run a smaller commercial fitness company. We only have 3 locations, very different than a Planet Fitness or a Crunch or an Equinox that has vast financial resources. But regardless of the size of the company, we've all figured out a way to do it. Smaller gyms and fitness centers that don't have financial resources, they've just gone to streaming on YouTube and streaming on Facebook. We've invested into some technology that allows us to have a little bit more of a robust platform to do our virtual workouts on. But it's very clear that the fitness industry is moving to this omni-channel approach. And if you are going to be competitive in the marketplace, it's no longer a nicety to have virtual fitness. It's now a necessity in your business, and our members are engaging with it and they enjoy it.
That's interesting to me as well from a business standpoint. How profitable is that? Because there are so many other free workouts that are on various platforms. So how do you compete with that? Or is it really just that family?
Yeah, so you bring up a great point. It will never be an external revenue stream that will generate any business for a smaller company like mine, because there is so much free content out there. And even if it's not free, Apple Fitness Plus is $9.99 a month, and they obviously have resources to scale that to something even more considerable. It is now table stakes in our industry to have this type of technology platform. Where we use it is to extend our community outside the 4 walls of our facility and stay connected with our clients that either don't feel comfortable coming in because they're still waiting to get vaccinated, or just they can't come in for any reason. And so it adds value in terms of extending the community, but it's a substantial resource that we're investing time and money into, but it is the new normal in our industry.
Michael Sack with us here on the Megacast. He's with Applied Fitness Solutions, and that's interesting as well, because at the time that you're having to invest money, we know that you're still operating under limited capacity. So how do you say, hey, I need to invest money, but I don't have as much money coming in?
Yeah, that's a challenging conversation around my leadership team table, that's for sure. We have been fortunate to get PPP loans and EIDL loans, and obviously that's been helpful to offset some of the costs. But at the end of the day, you have to survive as a business. I think you need to think a little big picture and more strategically. I will say that our industry is lobbying very hard at both the state and the national level for some dedicated aid. I sit on the board of directors for the Michigan Fitness Clubs Association. We're working with state representatives for some dedicated aid to our industry. There's a piece of legislation in the House right now called the GYMS Act, which is a large piece of legislation for some dedicated federal aid for the fitness industry. But the reality is, Ronnie, if our industry does not get dedicated financial assistance like the restaurants and the theaters receive, my business will probably figure out a way to be okay. But the statistics tell us that up to 30% of our industry could close by the end of this year without additional aid. In fact, 17% has already closed at this point.
Wow, that really is, it's sad. I know that sometimes you go on like Facebook Marketplace and you see gyms that are selling off their entire inventory through Facebook Marketplace. And you just think about all the dreams and the time and the energy that went into starting up some of these businesses. And I do feel like gyms are kind of being left out of the conversation right now because of the fact that people forget, yeah, you're reopened, but at limited capacity. You know, I know back in the beginning, there was the big fight to get gyms reopened because of the mental health aspect that working out provides people. But since then, the focus has really shifted away. So I'm glad to hear that you're working with some of the lawmakers to try to really address the financial burden that this has put on your industry as a whole.
Yeah, and I think what's critically important to remember, and I've told this to many, many people, the reason that there are so many gyms and fitness centers is because people only drive so far to do their workout. You know this, anyone who works out knows this. If it's not convenient, then you're not going to do it. And that 17% contraction in our industry so far, maybe upwards of a 30% by the end of the year, that actually becomes a public health issue. Because if gyms aren't as convenient, and I'm not talking for the people who are those hardcore exercisers, they'll figure out how to do it. But the inconsistent exerciser, if it's not convenient, they won't exercise. And then we have a much larger public health issue than what we had with the pandemic. I've said it many times. The pandemic inside of the pandemic is the obesity, mental health, and physical inactivity crisis that we have going on. And there's no vaccine that's going to get us out of that one. So this is a larger public health issue, I really believe. And I hope that our lawmakers are starting to understand that.
And so with that, we're talking with Michael Sack. He's with Applied Fitness Solutions. And with that, Michael, as well, what advice do you give to people that they were maybe a part of a gym community? Because I do feel like it's just that, it's a community. And, you know, because of the pandemic, and then maybe their schedules changed throughout this time as well. How do you get them to get back into the gym, feel comfortable coming back in, but also starting that habit and sticking with the habit again?
Yeah, well, so I'm going to give like three different brief parts to to answer your question. First part is with regard to the safety of gyms. We know based upon all the data that we've been collecting that gyms and fitness centers are an incredibly safe environment. The Michigan Fitness Clubs Association has been tracking visit to virus ratios, and we are far less than 0.5%. We're like statistically zero in terms of transmissibility in our environment. And you know, the MFCA's website has all of that data, mfcafit.org. So first, if safety is a concern, we're not finding that bared out in our internal data as well as any national data that's published independently. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, I think if you're thinking about getting back into the gym and you don't know where to start, I think the first thing is just coming through the door and doing something. You know, something is always better than nothing. We have this recommendation of 150 minutes of physical activity per week as our national guideline. And I always remind people that going from 0 to 15 minutes of physical activity per week is infinitely more important than going from 135 to 150 minutes per week. So even if you just come back in and do 1 day per week, that starts that habit. And even if it's only coming in for 30 minutes just to get you back in the routine, that starts to reestablish those habitual patterns. And lastly, start slow. As we've been telling everyone who's coming back, my biggest concern when you start back is you remembered what you were doing before the pandemic. You get excited, you come back and you do your workout, and then you're so sore you can't move for a week. Or worse yet, you develop a case of tendonitis, and then you're not able to exercise anyway. So go low, start slow, and progressively build your physical and your psychological comfort with being back in the gym.
So Michael, with that, have you had some members come back that are post-COVID and, you know, their lung capacity isn't what it once was?
Yeah, this is fascinating. We're just starting to understand from a physiological standpoint what the effect of this is. And the answer is yes. There's been some recent guidelines put out by some professional organizations about how to reintroduce exercise after COVID. And those guidelines, I think, are they're reasonably conservative right now. I think that's kind of the way that we've handled everything with regard to COVID. But truth be told, just in our client population, we've seen a wide variety of functional abilities coming back after COVID. Some people like nothing ever happened. Other people, significant lung capacity and physical capacity issues. I think every step along the way for us and for anyone that's trying to manage this for themselves, it is listen to your body, you know, pay attention to what your body's telling you. If you feel like it's too hard to catch your breath, scale back your intensity. And if you become very concerned, you certainly should talk to your doctor or a qualified fitness professional even, just to figure out what's going on. So as an example, you know, looking for an American College of Sport Medicine certified fitness professional would be a great starting point. But like I said earlier, it's starting low, going slow, and listening to your body. And if there's concerns, talk to your doctor.
That is so important because we do know as people go back as well, even, before the pandemic, when you would go to some classes, you would feel like you had to push yourself to try to keep up with other people because you're constantly looking and comparing, and you don't want to do that. Your body is talking to you, and it's important to push it, but also listen to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is not a competition. Like this is about you meeting yourself where you're at and just getting back in that habit. And I think that that's the approach we've taken with our clients. And I see a lot of qualified fitness professionals doing the same thing. And I think that's the appropriate approach.
We're talking with Michael Stack. He is the CEO for Applied Fitness Solutions. So you guys have 3 gyms now?
Yes, we have 3 locations. Our original in Ann Arbor, a location in Plymouth, and we have a location in Rochester, which is actually making a little bit of a move right now.
You're moving in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, this is a really interesting situation and a very fortuitous situation. Rochester is our newest facility. It's a big, massive 20,000 square foot facility right behind Dick's Sporting Goods near Lifetime Fitness. And this facility was meant for 2,000 to 2,500 clients. Well, before the pandemic, we had about 700 clients. Now, unfortunately, we have only about 200 clients. Wow. And so we've seen a significant contraction here. And we've actually had the ability to partner up with RARA, the Rochester Avon Recreation Authority. They have a great facility, 480 Fitness, where we're actually moving our operations into to become their full service fitness services provider, as well as offering our programs out of there. And it works out perfectly. I think it's a great public-private partnership. And I think that the people of Rochester and the surrounding communities are really going to benefit from what we're able to bring to the table collectively.
And do you think that a relationship like that would have happened prior to the pandemic?
No, one, because there wasn't the need for it, which I guess is somewhat unfortunate that we had to figure out a way to pivot. But I think that this is ultimately going to be a better thing for us and a better thing for the community. AFS has always believed in being very strongly entrenched in the surrounding community and supporting it in any way possible. And now this gives us the opportunity to really get in there with the local recreation department and not only help with general fitness needs, but now start to get involved with senior programs and youth sports and really expand the portfolio of services that we offer. And the team over at RARA, Ron and Dave and Kate that we've been working with, they're first class, and we're very excited to make the transition.
Michael Stack with us here on the Megacast. He's with Applied Fitness Solutions. And Michael, just another minute or two here with you before we say goodbye. And I will say, it's great to hear that you are thinking outside the box, because at the end of the day, we do know one of the big factors in COVID as well was the health, individual health. And as Americans, we tend to be more obese than other countries. So really, hopefully the public is taking time to address their personal health needs, and having, people such as yourself, health experts, is going to be so important. So with that too, for those that maybe still aren't comfortable going into the gym, how can they find out more about Applied Fitness Solutions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the easiest way to do is go to our website. It's 4afsfit.com. 4afsfit.com, and set up a time to chat with one of the people who work for us. They will help guide you on your journey. The other thing I'd strongly recommend is, advocating for our industry is very important. Our industry is really in a fight for its survival to a great extent. And mfcafit.org is the local association that's fighting in Lansing and trying to help the national organization. And we really need support. The reality is, us sitting at 30% capacity right now is sending a very, very bad message to the public that, as example, restaurants at 50% capacity, that we are 20% less safe. And that's simply not the case based on all the objective data we have. So also, talking to your lawmakers and letting them know that we can't be forgotten in this, because we are such a critical constituent and stakeholder in the public health system in our state. Certainly connect with AFS, but connect to support the industry as much as anything else, because we need to be here when this is all over to keep everyone healthy.
What was the other website again?
It is mfcafit.org.
And it's important, anyone listening right now, support, again, we've been talking about supporting our local businesses, and we do know that so many gyms are small business owners. Mm-hmm. And it's so important to support you, support the industry, because at the end of the day, if we're healthier, our communities are healthier as well. Michael, anything maybe I didn't touch on that you want to add before we say goodbye?
No, I think what you just said is so important, is that, we weren't in the best shape before this pandemic started. And unfortunately, we're even in a worse shape now from a physical and a mental health perspective. And we really need to focus on that as a state and as a country, because if not, the results economically and from a public health standpoint will be far worse than they were with COVID. And that's not being hyperbolic. That's just looking at the data.
So important. Well, we're so happy that your business appears to be surviving. We wish you the best of luck, and best of luck too on the new relationship in Rochester. I think it's going to be a huge benefit for the people in that community. So Michael Stack, he is the CEO for the Applied Fitness Solutions. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rodney. Appreciate it.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we'll be joined by the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. This is the Megacast.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization, to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful. Because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Great to have you with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl in this home studio. Mr. Tyler holding things down for us back there in West Bloomfield. Just to let you know as well, if you missed an interview, you can always go back and catch it. Just go to civiccentertv.com, click on the on-demand section. And then, of course, if you have Comcast, Channel 15 on Comcast 99 on AT&T, you'll see the show does rebroadcast several times throughout the day and the next morning as well. For so many of us, we're more than a year into the pandemic, and it's become somewhat of a new norm for us, but I still think we're all just as excited to get back to life as we used to know it. But in the meantime, it's important to be documenting this time that we're living in right now. And to talk a little bit more, let's bring in Cory Taylor. She's the Office and Activities Coordinator for the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Museum. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
It's always great talking to you. I know that the museum over there, you have a new program going on, Collecting Memories. Mm-hmm. Tell us more about that.
Yep. So that program was born out of the pandemic. Basically, last May, a group of us got together and said, we need to start documenting the events that have been happening over the last couple of months. And at that point, we thought that it was only going to be a few months. We didn't anticipate, like everyone else, we didn't anticipate that it was going to be over a year. But we started this campaign to collect stories and memories and just document, you know, how the pandemic affected the greater West Bloomfield area. And then that sort of morphed into an ongoing campaign that we've been doing, kind of monthly topics. So they update every month, just based on the season or the events that we're having. So I guess good things have come out of the pandemic, at least.
You know, and you know what, Cory, too, because, you know, we look at this entire past year and it's been a roller coaster, and there are some little things. Like I was at Target the other day and, you know, the toilet paper was restocked. There were Clorox wipes on the shelf. Hand sanitizer was aplenty. And I was so excited. I took pictures. I was like, see, I mean, who knew that seeing a, you know, stock shelf of toilet paper could make us appreciate some of these things. So when we're looking at documenting this COVID-19 roller coaster ride, what types of things are you looking for?
Well, you know, we're looking for anything that people want to provide, but mostly stories and memories, you know, verbally or written, you know, either way. We're also looking for, you know, those are the kinds of things that document people's experience. And that's kind of the non-tangible things that we want to collect, because most museums, almost all museums are made up of tangible artifacts, objects, but all of those objects tell a story. And as they get older, the non-tangible stories and memories that are connected to it and the people who are connected to them sometimes get lost. And that's what we're trying to avoid, because, you know, we can collect pictures of, you know, unstocked toilet paper shelves, or, you know, a mask here and there, or signs about wearing masks or sanitizing or whatnot. But that's not going to tell the whole story. You know, that tells kind of a little tiny chunk of the story. And we want to hear from people who are working from home, or who have to homeschool their children, or have to work with their spouse for the first time, you know, because they're sharing an office space, or, you know, people who adopted pets during the quarantine and all of that. So we're looking for anything and everything you want to share.
So with that, we're talking with Cory Taylor. She's the Office and Activities Coordinator for the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. And Cory, this is a very unique time to be going through a pandemic because of the technology. And how is that impacting the stories that you collect? Because I do wonder what it was like during the Spanish flu.
Right.
Would we have reacted differently to this one had that one been documented like, you know, COVID-19 is going to be documented?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I've honestly thought about that as well. You know, it's kind of the technology that we have now kind of puts into perspective a lot of historical events. And I always think about, well, not always, but I've thought about recently when the Notre Dame in France it burned. And had that happened just 20 years ago, we wouldn't have been as connected as we were then. You know, and that only happened, 2 years ago now? And people were able to message their friends and family that were in France instantly to find out if they were okay, to find out if anything else happened, you know. So it's a blessing and a curse, I think. But I honestly think it would have been, we might have been in a better place to adapt and to react to the pandemic had we known more about individual people's experiences during the Spanish flu. Or not, you know, maybe we wouldn't have reacted any differently. Who knows? But I hope that had we known what had happened 100 years ago, we would have reacted a bit differently.
It's just the simple thing of wearing a mask. Mm-hmm. You know, they were wearing a mask 100 years ago, but it really took a lot of digging to be able to try to even find information about what they were going through. And then it was very historical, more of a timeline rather than stories. So with that too, how's it been going? What types of stories have you been collecting, and which ones do you want to see more of?
So we've actually been collecting we have a few kind of ongoing submissions that a few active members and volunteers have been continuously adding to our collection, which we're greatly appreciative of. And those are basically, one of our volunteers golfs a lot. And so she submitted a mask that she got, and then she also submitted a sign that they had to put on their golf cart that all members of the cart come from the same family or live within the same household, which I thought was strange, but needed, obviously, so that people weren't, if you weren't wearing a mask in the golf cart together, people weren't concerned. And I've been collecting the stickers that we got from our vaccines, that have the time on them of when you can leave, and so that's something, it's just a label with a time on it, but that's extremely important to me. And it was when it's one of those like glimmer of hope, that maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel of this crazy last year or 14 months. So, those are the kinds of things that we want to hear from just the seemingly random, unimportant objects or stories or things, photographs, that somebody 100 years from now might not think is important, but we today, obviously cherish. So.
I remember around this time last year, it was the big debate over getting out in your yard. And, some of the, like Home Depot, they could be open, but their garden areas couldn't be open. Then it was hard to get flowers because of the supply. The whole supply chain throughout this pandemic has been fascinating to sit back and watch as well. So when people are looking at possibly donating things, what formats too are you looking for? Written word is still better, because we don't know what the technology is going to be in the next 50, 75 years.
Yeah, so written word, you can submit them online, or you can submit them, physically written down and mail it to the museum, or we can you can drop it off at the museum. There's nobody there to pick it up, but you can leave it in the mailbox or on the front porch. But the easiest thing, I think, especially with everything going virtual, is just submitting it online or emailing me, which all of the contact information is on our website. And there are submission links on there as well. And so, you don't have to necessarily write something down. You can submit a recording of your voice, or you can submit a video recording, whatever you feel comfortable with. There was one submission that was a simple photograph with one sentence describing the photograph, and that's fine too. So in whatever way is comfortable for you, we can find a way to submit it.
You mean someone actually printed a photograph?
Oh, no, there was with our Google form, they submitted a photograph. I think it was back in early April. The photograph was taken. It was her son and her parents. They were on opposite sides of a window, and they were, seeing, he wanted to see his grandparents, and it was just safer to not be indoors or outside or anything. So they just had the window closed, and it was, honestly, for one sentence and one photograph, it was quite moving, because I know the background of it. And so it actually kind of brought tears to my eyes when I saw it.
It really is. And some of these reunions between grandparents and grandkids have been very emotional as well. And, one thing, because we do look at technology and you wonder, because, 8-track tapes and even the original iPod, so many of those things are outdated. So that's one thing, if you preserve these moments and these memories, to be able to, have access to them, 10, 15, 20 years, 50 years down the road.
Yeah, we're working on, trying to not only preserve the physical objects that we have, but also preserve them digitally. And with everything, changing, there, 10 years ago, you could save things on a CD and that was fine. But now obviously that's outdated, and, CDs can go bad just like floppy disks and stuff. So, we're trying to, we do have floppy disks in our archive that we're trying to extract information from and get them online or digitally rather, stored in the cloud. And as of today, the cloud seems to be the best way to archive things, but who knows what's going to happen in 5-10 years. So we're trying to do what we can to get up to date and keep up to date.
I forgot all about the floppy disk.
Yeah.
All right, Cory Taylor with us here on the Megacast. She's the Office and Activities Coordinator for the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. And I do have to ask, one of the most popular things that the Historical Society hosts, the tours to Apple Island. Is it going to happen this year?
So yeah, we are going to be having virtual Apple Island tours. We took a break last year because we just, we couldn't get enough together to, obviously it wasn't safe to go to the island in person, but then also we just couldn't get everything together to have a virtual tour, which, to have an Apple Island tour skip a year is kind of a big deal because that's our biggest event and we have a lot of volunteers that are involved in it. And obviously the community loves it too. So it was a huge bummer to not have it last year, but we are having it this year. It will be virtual and it will be free. So that's really exciting. And we're going to be having in September for the 50th anniversary of when the school district acquired Apple Island. One of our volunteers created about a 25-minute virtual tour of the island with some historical background and past and present photographs. So we're going to be showing that. And then we're also going to have some recordings from our regular docents and presenters. So that's really exciting. And so we're going to have 2 sessions on, it's in the second weekend in June. So that'd be June 12th and 13th. And we have 2 sessions each. So one will be in the morning and one will be in the afternoon.
And Cory, with that, you said that's going to be taking place in September?
Oh, sorry. No, the video was produced in September. The virtual tours is going to be in June, in the second weekend in June. Yep.
And of course, people can get more information if they go on the website, I would imagine.
Yep. So it's right on our homepage. There's 4 different links for whatever session you want to attend. And the morning is at 10 a.m. and the afternoon sessions are at 1 p.m.
With us right now, Cory Taylor from the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. Anything else going on over there at the Historical Society you want to talk about before we say goodbye?
Sure. We actually have a presentation that Civic Center TV produced for us. It's going to be occurring next Wednesday, May 19th at 7 p.m. So we're going to show, it's about a 45-minute video that CCTV produced in 2019 with our one of our Native American presenters, Maquandan Jewel. We wanted to capture, he knows a lot of information about the history of Native Americans in Apple Island and Native Americans in the Greater West Bloomfield area. So we wanted to capture that knowledge and that those stories from him. So we did a video a couple years ago that we were going to premiere in 2020, but then postponed it for the pandemic. So that's going to be premiering on Wednesday. And we're going to be showing the video for the first time in conjunction with West Bloomfield Public Library. So you can go to their website and register for the program. You do need a West Bloomfield library card to register, but anybody can get a library card, and so you just need to contact them to get that set up. And you, as far as I know, we're still working out broadcasting the video with CCTV. So that's tentatively scheduled, but we haven't quite worked out all the logistics with that. So at the very least, you can attend the West Bloomfield program or the library program on Wednesday. And then there will be a question and answer portion towards the end of the program with Maquandan after the video.
So all of you over at the Historical Society, you have not taken a break during this entire time.
Oh, we took a couple months off at the very beginning, because we didn't realize that things were going to last this long. So we hadn't quite had a virtual program backup plan. We didn't know we needed it. And so we spent a few months getting one together and launched that in August. And we're just continuing with that as long as we need to. Everything that we've been able to do, we've been fortunate enough to pivot to virtual. So we'll just be doing that for the foreseeable future.
It really is fascinating to see how it's being documented as we continue to live throughout this time. Just think about the kids 50, 75 years from now. And you're talking about it. Yeah, remember back in that time where we had COVID? They're going to look at us like we were all crazy, but it's going to be great. And we're so lucky to have your organization documenting this for the history here in our communities. So again, how can people participate if they do want to document something, Cory? Just email it to you?
Yeah, so you can email it to me. It's all lowercase CORY at gwbhs.org. So that's my email address. You can also visit our website at gwbhs.org. And all the links that you'll need are on the website, including all the event Zoom links. Those are right on the homepage.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Cory, always great having you with us. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Still another hour to go here on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll be speaking to that random agency. What's it been like for them throughout the pandemic? That's next here on the Megacast.
Finally, I just got my COVID-19 vaccine.
I registered with my local health department and they called me.
I got mine at the pharmacy, and my neighbor got hers from the hospital.
I'm not a techie person, so I called the COVID hotline, and they helped me schedule an appointment.
Get vaccinated with the first vaccine you can. Protect us all.
Learn more at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries, but you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. My Bridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
I want to get back to seeing my grandbabies every Sunday and smothering them with big hugs and kisses.
I want to get back to football games with my boys.
I want to get back to feeling and touching, connecting with the people around me.
I want to get back to family dinners and my grandma's mac and cheese.
I want to get back to real grocery shopping. Taking my time, walking down every aisle, smelling the tomatoes and melons, having a free sample or two, or 3.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the first step that let us get back to feeling optimistic about the days ahead of us. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I get it?
Should I wait?
Now, get the facts. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. As a reminder, you can catch previous episodes of the show. Just go to civiccentertv.com, click on Megacast. Our next guest, they are a small agency, but with a very big passion. And their work is anything but random. However, their name is That Random Agency. With us now, let's bring in the principal, Lauren Kelly. So great to have you with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Okay, I was on your website and you all look like you have a lot of fun.
Thank you. We do. We really love social. It's a lot of fun.
So tell us more about That Random Agency. First, how did you come up with the name? It's brilliant. It really is.
Of course. Yeah. So both my business partner and I have quite a few years of experience in social media agencies throughout Metro Detroit. And one day we were thinking about, there's a dream a lot of us have of one day I'd love to start my own company. I'd love to, build my own service. So we were thinking what would be a really fun name to use. And That Random Agency came to mind because when you talk to a lot of business owners or different clients, they say, oh yeah, some agency helped me with this, or I hired this company. So we wanted to have a little fun with it. And we liked the comedy in the name. So that's where we came up with it.
And so with that, when did you guys start the agency?
Right at the beginning of COVID, actually. So it's a great COVID success story. It's fun to share. We started and it's a year in May. So happy 1 year to us.
Wow, a happy 1 year to you. But with that, you are starting in the middle of a pandemic. Were you freaked out a little bit in the beginning?
A little bit, yeah. You know, I was actually laid off. I worked at a startup at the time, which you can imagine can be hard in COVID. There's not as much revenue coming in. So I definitely identify with a lot of the small business owners that we help, you know, with social media, and a lot of our clients who are struggling to, you know, find the right messaging to use right now and to drive sales. So we wanted to, you know, really take the leap, and it was definitely a big leap, but it's been a lot of fun and we've had great success so far. And it just shows the need that a lot of small, medium business owners have to really define what they should do in social media and how it can be successful.
But if I can ask you too, when you're starting up a new business in the middle of the pandemic, we know there are a lot of grants that are being offered to small businesses such as yours, but because you weren't around the year before, it can make it a little bit challenging to try to get some of that funding. What's that side of the house been like for you?
Yeah, so that's been really interesting. You know, we're fortunate that as a social media agency, I had a lot of resources already available. So computers, that kind of thing, as far as startup money that you need. And now, especially with working from home, that's been a big help of not having to rent office space to begin. There are definitely some grants available, especially in the local community. We haven't used any of those just yet, but they're definitely on our radar. And there are some even through Facebook offer some grants for small businesses and business owners who are starting up right now.
Oh, that's great to hear. And with that too, can we talk about the importance of social media throughout the pandemic? Because it's been so vital to so many businesses. However, there are a lot of businesses that aren't good at social media.
Yeah. So one of my biggest pieces of advice for in the pandemic and just always for small and medium-sized businesses is to really take a look. You know, it's easy to get caught up in how many followers do you have? How many likes are you getting on every post? Especially with COVID, people have not as much time or have more time than normal, and they spend a lot of time on social. So it's easy to look at the wrong things and just endlessly scroll and compare your business and your success to another company. But I would really encourage all business owners, when you're looking at social media, to approach it, you know, to align with your overall business goals. So if you're a local, you know, restaurant or a local company, you're going to approach social media entirely differently than if you know, own an e-commerce business or an Etsy store and you're selling products online. So instead of, you know, trying to have 1 million followers, just know that that doesn't always equate to sales.
That's such good advice. And one of the other things too, have you found, especially for some of the businesses that maybe they're, you know, their owners, it's a small business, they've had to lay off people, they're overworked, but yet they're trying to reach the public through social media. How important has it been for them to be authentic throughout this time?
That's a great question. And it's vitally important, especially if you look at Instagram. A lot of people have been critical of the platform and that it can be, people aren't as authentic when they present themselves as individuals and as business owners. And people really are starting to see through that now that, you know, customers are social media savvy. If you're not representing yourself and really your true intentions with your company of wanting to provide value, whatever that might be for you, that's one of the biggest things that people are pretty aware of now. So it's important just to be yourself, and people will respond to that even better.
Everyone loves a story.
Yeah.
Especially in the middle of the pandemic, people want to connect with their local businesses, and they do that with a story. Because we can all go on Amazon and just click, boom. It really is magic. My finger's magical, by the way. It just clicks and then stuff ends up in my front door. But with that too, what else do you think has been changing because of the pandemic that you think is going to stick around? Because I know we're all home more, we're all on the computer so much more than what we were before.
Yeah, I would say one of the big things in the last year is that video content is even more valuable than it has been. It's a big trend in the last 5 years that more and more video is necessary, but I would encourage everyone to think about live video. That's one of the things that's been booming during COVID, and I imagine will stay. Instagram Reels is a new feature, so both short form and long form video. I know YouTube videos, for example, can be intimidating to some business owners if you're not super savvy or comfortable on video. that can be a lot just to start. So think about short form video and how just for a few minutes or a few seconds, you can be available and show your personality, show your brand on social. That's one thing I think is here to stay.
And so with that, any tips, like what apps do you recommend for people to use?
Yeah, so I would say Instagram is a great one. TikTok obviously has a lot of buzz right now, and it is very popular with a younger demographic. So knowing your audience is really important when you think about which social media channels are best for your business. But there are some apps available in the App Store that can help you create some of that content, add captions to your videos. That's really important too, as people are multitasking at work and looking at social while they're supposed to be in Zoom calls and all of that. Having captions is a great thing, and will increase, the amount of people who are actually watching your videos all the way through.
The apps really are amazing, and they can help spice up so much of your content. I love your website too, where you have random facts.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube has 2 billion users worldwide. It's always funny to me. Back when I was at Channel 7, I used to put my raw video clips up on a YouTube page. I haven't posted there in years, and I still get like all these subscribers. I'm like, what? I haven't posted it. You could see there's nothing new there.
Yeah.
But also a podcast. Podcasting is taking off right now.
Absolutely. It's funny, in the biz, we like to say, podcasting is the new social media. So it's kind of that shiny, exciting opportunity that a lot of businesses are considering. And we've had a lot of demand even from our clients to help them start a podcast. And one thing I would encourage everyone, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, don't be intimidated by all of the equipment. Sometimes, people think, oh, I need to have a full studio in order to be successful. And you definitely want to use, a professional microphone, but you don't need a full setup when you just get started with the show. I think about what is something unique that you want to share and a story that you want to tell. That's where storytelling again comes in, where people want to identify with you. And podcasting is another great opportunity because you're one-on-one with the listener right in their ears. And it's hard to get that kind of attention these days. Even think about TV commercials and dual screens and all of that. People have a lot of demand on their attention. So if you have an interesting story to tell, I would really suggest looking into that.
With us on the Megacast, Lauren Kelly. She is the CEO and founder for That Random Agency. It really is quite incredible because you think back for us that started in broadcast back in the day, like 3/4 tape, which long before you. But really, you're looking at what equipment that would cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars is now in your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Apple, it's, you have iMovie. You can make complete movies just here through an app, or, Final Cut Pro is only $300.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is incredible, the technology that we have right here on our cell phones. But how do people also navigate a saturated market to make sure their content is being discovered?
Yeah, so this is an interesting challenge that all brands at every level face, but especially with small business owners, there is a lot of competition in social media. So that's why we always recommend having some paid dollars set aside in your business if you're going to really take on social media to help make sure your content is seen. And unfortunately, it's just sort of a reality with the platforms now that you need to have some paid spend to get the full views of your content. I think it's around 1% of people who actually like your Facebook page will even see your content. So that's another reason why, even if you have 1 million followers, it won't necessarily equate to sales because those people aren't seeing your content. So it doesn't have to be thousands of dollars a month. Obviously, that's great. Facebook would love for you to spend an unlimited amount of money on their platform, but you can get started with strategic spend that supports your business goals. And focus more on that and driving people to your website and growing your email list instead of just your followers and social.
So talk a little bit more about that with how does it work? Because I do know, I'll post the same thing on the personal page versus the journalist page, because, and why Facebook still keeps the personal page at 5,000 people is it's just stupid. Get rid of it. So now you have people with 2 and 3 pages, but you post things, one on the journalist and then one on your regular, and you see it's on a journalist page, unless you're paying, people aren't seeing it. It's just buried.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And Facebook made that change a few years ago in pivoting to trying to prioritize content from your family and friends. So as you scroll through your newsfeed, they wanted people to understand and see content from people that they know. And that was a response to a lot of advertising and complaints from people that when you scroll, there's just an ad every other post. So that was one change that they made, to try and adjust for that. And part of that, which stinks for business owners, is that means that their content is seen less and less.
Lauren Kelly with us here on the Megacast. She's with That Random Agency. Okay, so we've all started hearing about TikTok. It seems Snapchat we're not hearing so much about as much, but we do know college kids and the younger kids use that. They don't really do the all the filters and stuff. They're really like just take the picture in a weird angle and send it with a caption.
Yeah.
So how do you know what the next big thing is going to be? Clubhouse. I'm hearing that. I tried to get in once and I'm like, look, I have too much going on as it is.
Sure. So I would say Clubhouse is definitely the social media app that has the highest buzz right now and is the newest platform. It's funny because in social, it seems like every 6 months there's a new app or a new platform that pops up, and a lot of them usually don't last, or Facebook or Instagram or one of the big three, Twitter, will buy out that platform and just incorporate them into the features. With Clubhouse, actually Facebook is launching a new feature called Hotline, which is a similar app, kind of a copycat app to Clubhouse. So that indicates, to me that Clubhouse is here to stay if Facebook has invested the resources to copy the features. But Clubhouse is a really interesting option, especially if you're interested in podcasting, but not sure if you want to take the plunge. I would encourage you to give Clubhouse a try. It's an audio only app and it's all live, nothing's pre-recorded, and you can have some interesting conversations and interviews and panel discussions with other people locally or, around the world. So it's a fun app that we're learning a lot about too, and exploring, for clients of how the best way you could monetize that.
So with that, Lauren, you just mentioned clients. There are some people like, let's just admit, they shouldn't go it alone, because we also know if you make a mistake and it goes viral, it can take a business years to recover from that. So talk a little bit more about your services.
Of course. Yeah. So we offer some social media packages, but as you can imagine, every business is really different, and there's different, business goals of what success looks like for them. So how they make money, how, they have sales, whether it's consulting or a restaurant or a real estate agent. There's a lot of different jobs out there and people who need social media help. So most of our, agreements or packages end up being something custom, right, for the clients. But everyone I would say that we work with, we help them with the content creation piece, which is the biggest, stressful element of social for a lot of business owners, because it can be stressful to know, hey, what should I post today? I'm not sure, do I post for this holiday? How do I incorporate my business so it shows my personality but isn't too salesy, because people don't like that either. So we help create the content and plan it ahead. We use a monthly content calendar, which has been really helpful in reducing some stress for clients. As well as helping define strategy and how to use advertising. There's a lot of ways, that we could partner together.
And people should know too, what you post on Twitter shouldn't be the same thing you post on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. Every platform is different, and you should, really take your content and drive it to meet that platform.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely okay, to post across all channels, but the best practice would be adjusting your messaging for each channel. You won't post the same content on Twitter and LinkedIn and TikTok. So taking that extra time to customize for the platforms will go a long way.
Right. And we should say Hootsuite if you're a small business. Hootsuite is a very good tool.
Yes, it is. If you can schedule content in advance, that's great. And the one thing to mention too with a content calendar is it doesn't mean there isn't space for real-time posts. If there's something fun that comes up for your business that's happening in real time, make sure you share that. But planning ahead will just remove that stress from your day-to-day, and you can focus on actually driving success for your business.
I remember, so I used to be the PIO for ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and I had to do the social media content for Detroit and Chicago, and people would be like, oh my God, you must spend so much time. I'm like, oh yeah. No, I did it like, once every 2 weeks and posted it in Hootsuite, and then it just magically appeared at 3 a.m. They're like, you were up at 3 a.m? Yeah, I didn't get any sleep.
That's helpful too in defining your strategy and knowing, here's my strategic approach. This is the type of content that'll support my strategy, and here I can schedule it and be good to go. And then you can look so impressive to all your friends who think you're spending all this time posting on stories, right?
Exactly. Well, Lauren, it's been so fun having with you, and we definitely wish you and your team the best of luck. You're so brave starting up the new agency here in the middle of a pandemic. So congratulations on your 1-year anniversary.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Lauren Kelly, she's the CEO and founder for That Random Agency. If you need help with your social media or you're thinking about starting up a podcast, contact them. They can help you out. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we're going to have a little fun talking about gaming. Gaming, I'm telling you, parents, if your kids are spending too much time playing video games, it could lead to a bright future for them. That's next here on the Megacast.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too. Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and experiences connect through conversation, and it feels good.
This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too. Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together. Start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine.
Great to have you with us here on the Megacast. Tyler and I are here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. You'll find us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. If you do have cable, thank you. A portion of your bill helps support programming such as this. You'll find us on Channel 15 if you have Comcast 99 on AT&T. And then we try to make it easy for you. If you're out driving around, you don't have to miss an episode. Tune us into the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM, The Biff. And then you can also find us on Facebook on our social media page. With that, hey Tyler, do you play video games?
I do play video games, mostly sports titles, but I'll dabble in other ones as well.
So I should probably not really openly admit this with our next guest coming on, but I still like Pac-Man. Miss Pac-Man is even more fun. We have like one of those really, really old Superman arcade games in our basement that my husband got because obviously he collects comics. So of course you have to have a real arcade game.
I mean, why not?
But when it comes to the new ones, I can still hear my twin sister telling my nephew, get off the computer. You cannot play these video games. You only have 15 more minutes. And I'm sure those conversations have been happening around the house, even more so over the past year with the pandemic. But gaming is really a very big business and a very lucrative business as well. We're going to bring in Scott Brodie. He's the founder for Heart Shaped Games. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so you're probably really good at gaming.
Something like that. That's at one point when I was a little younger, I had more time to really get good at things. But nowadays, I just try to keep up on what's out there and play a lot of everything.
What I love though is that you guys are a local company. Tell us more about your company.
Yeah, so I'm the founder of Heart Shaped Games. We're based in Ann Arbor currently, but a lot of the people we work with are actually virtual and work all over the country.
So you guys were remote before the pandemic?
We were, yeah. Everybody stole our business model here.
Imagine that.
Yeah. So we were pretty versed at this, but I mean, obviously, if you'd like to get into that, there are many differences during a pandemic than normal times working from home. But yes, we found a way to make strategy games for PC and mobile, and our next upcoming game, We Are the Caretakers, is also going to be for Xbox.
So with that, Scott, what has it been for you and your team throughout the pandemic, though? Overall, have you seen the need is growing for more games?
Yeah, I think overall games obviously picked up in popularity just because people were looking for things to do. And so I think by and large, the games industry was one of the few that I guess had a benefit if there was a silver lining to such a terrible thing. So yeah, absolutely. I think the nature of games being mostly digital and being able to be distributed digitally helps business kind of stay as usual as it can get.
What is the process like to try to create a new game and one that really gets the attention of people that they want to play and it becomes popular?
Yeah, it's so interesting because there's so many different types of games. There's games for people who want to play for 3 minutes. There's games for people who want to spend 80 hours going through a deep story. So I think it's really about first identifying sort of the types of players you are looking to make a game for, and usually that starts with just what do I like to play, what am I passionate about, and what do I think other people will like. So a lot of times we start from that angle, and for me those games have always been deep strategy games, but that are very easy to jump into. So they don't take a lot to learn necessarily, but there's a lot there once you kind of get into them.
So I don't have to have Wikipedia up to try to follow along then?
No, not at all. And for a quick aside, but there is a new Pac-Man game that just came out for Nintendo Switch, so you should look into that. You can play against 99 people playing Pac-Man at the same time.
See, look at that. We don't even have a Nintendo. We do have a Wii, and I think my husband still has like his original PlayStation.
Nice.
He's a collector. It's probably even in the box too.
Very nice.
So with that too, though, but we've heard those conversations in households where parents are trying to tell their kids, get off the video games or limit their exposure to video games. But we also know that esports is really becoming a big industry right now. And colleges now have esports teams, Oakland University, into which kids can get scholarships. How do you think that's going to change your industry overall and to attract new talent?
Yeah, I mean, I think lots of people look for something competitive, and I think I myself, I used to joke when I was in high school that I was a 3-sport athlete. I played basketball, football, and Quake, which was an online game. And so I think that there's just a love for competitiveness, and I think you get all of the same things you would get in a virtual team as you would in a real team. And I do think it has become such a big business that it's hard to ignore as a game developer, and looking for ways to build on top of your game a community aspect or a competitive aspect like that.
So with that, we're talking with Scott Brodie. He's the founder for Heart Shaped Games out of Ann Arbor. And with that, Scott, when it comes to the industry and the business side, what type of talent are you trying to attract, or what advice do you give to maybe students that are looking to go into the industry and do what you're doing?
Yeah, I think what's great about games is that it's a huge growing industry, and there's lots of different types of teams, lots of different types of games being made. So the first thing would just be don't be afraid to focus on what you really like, whether it's art, whether it's programming, being a producer who's sort of more of like a manager and helps get games through to ship. So think about what you really like, and I'm sure there's a fit for you. And then yeah, I would say find a mix between a love of something creative and a love of something technical, because games really are that marriage of a creative industry, all of them really, music, art, storytelling, and then, the technical of getting a computer to do what you want it to do through programming. So you don't have to be a programmer, but I think finding a love on both sides will really set you up for success and help you find lots of ways to fit into a game development team to contribute.
So do you anticipate, because of the pandemic, more people have become interested in games and gaming, that maybe it's going to spark an explosion or a growth in this industry?
That's an interesting thought. I think that there are just lots of people that wouldn't typically be exposed to games, maybe have decided to spend more time with it, and maybe they will through that become a long-term game player after the pandemic, and maybe that will spark interest in the creative arts. I mean, I know that's definitely how I got my start. I started playing games, fell in love with them, and just had a curiosity about, okay, how are these things being made? Who makes them? Where does that happen? And you know, locally there weren't that many companies, so I learned very quickly that I'd either have to create my own thing or I'd have to travel, which I ended up doing both.
So with that too, I mean, because with them not really being created here in Michigan, we know that for so many people, it's like an internship or a family member is in that industry. So it's almost like you had to forge your own path.
Yes, I mean, I was lucky to find one of the few companies here a long time ago. They're now out of business, unfortunately, but it was called Outrage Games, and they were based in Ann Arbor. And so I was able to get an early internship with them, and that helped me really solidify that that's what I wanted to do. And but I mean, I guess again, for anyone out there who's looking to get started, I mean, the great thing is that you don't necessarily need a company, a physical location to go to. You can right now go get a tool like Unity or the Unreal Game Engine or whatever the tool you can find, make something, put it out there on the internet, all from your home. And it doesn't matter where you're based as long as you've made something interesting that people want. So that's kind of the beauty now versus when I started. I'm showing my age, so long ago, that you don't have to worry necessarily about having to travel to a company if your goal is just to simply make a game and you're out here in the Midwest like I was.
So what are your thoughts on some of these huge esports competitions? Obviously, we know this year with the pandemic, they've been put on hold, but we've seen where stadiums are packed because of esports. And how does that correlate with your industry and what you do?
Yeah, I'm not really making just because we're a smaller company, so we don't necessarily have the additional tools that maybe some of the bigger companies have to put prize money up to hold events and so forth. That said, it's really been incredible to see how that aspect of our industry has grown, because I think it's just a proof point of how mainstream games have come and how many people are playing and following these games like League of Legends, Hearthstone. I mean, there's numbers of games out there that to someone who doesn't follow it might say this is a foreign concept. I've never heard of these things. There's a whole world out there that I'm not aware of, but it just goes to show how big of an industry it is. I look at it as a proof point that you can pack a stadium with people who follow this game, and it may not otherwise be obvious if we weren't having those games. So I think it's helpful for the outside, non-gaming fans to kind of take stock of how big of an industry gaming has become.
And do you anticipate it's going to help your industry by having local universities such as Oakland University, Kettering, now having, like e-gaming teams? I would think that would help, funnel into some of your smaller companies, your company and other companies as well, to try to get that talent.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I mean, I love that there's now that equal footing representation for game teams at a college level, because there's no reason it shouldn't be. And I think that's great that there's now some organization around those things. And I think, again, kind of what we were talking about earlier, I think anything that leads you to be interested in technology or games is always a good informal sales pitch for the games industry in general. So I think there are a lot of people who transition from being a highly competitive player into, say, working on those games. So I know a lot of players who are very successful, and they're the players who know the game so intimately that the companies would like to hire them so that they can really pick their brain about, okay, how do we improve the game to really fit this competitive part where maybe not every player is trying to play at that high of a level, they're just playing for fun. So how do we capture that audience as well as the casual player?
It really is a fascinating industry. And Scott Brodie with us here on the Megacast. He's the founder of Heart Shaped Games out of Ann Arbor. I'm with that, Scott, too. Did it help, though? Because one of the things in the pandemic, I'm And again, I apologize for my ignorance. I'm a Pac-Man person, or Galaxy. Remember that one was always fun as well. But with that, most of these games, can you download them into a program, or do you have to actually physically go buy the program?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's the great thing now, is that pretty much every game can be grabbed digitally. So all of the, on PC, there's platforms called Steam. There are like consoles, where you can just download the game directly to your console with things like Xbox Game Pass. So yeah, every sort of major gaming platform has a digital component, and it's actually rarer to go out and physically buy a disc these days, for sure.
So what are your more popular games?
So at Heart-Shaped Games, we've made 3 games over, say, the past 10 years. But I guess the most popular one we've made, although that's relative, is a game called Hero Generations, which is a game where you play a character, and every step they take is 1 year of their life. And you have to find a mate to settle down and have a child, and then continue your generation by playing as your child. And then right now, I guess our biggest game that we've tried to make is a game called We Are the Caretakers, which is a strategy game based around a metaphor of anti-poaching. So you're actually putting together squads of characters to try to protect animals in this sort of sci-fi planet. And connected to that game, we're actually giving 10% of our sales to charity, and we partnered with the Rhino Recovery Fund to kind of give something that sort of supports what the game is about.
I love that because it really is about nature as well. How do you guys come up with the concept and then take that concept into a physical game?
Yeah, so in a lot of cases for us, we actually start with some real world inspiration, which isn't always the case with other companies. So we really sat down and actually talked with people doing that work, conservationists and rangers and that sort of thing, and just really got a sense of what went into that. And we quickly realized that there was a strategy layer to their work, and really from that kind of identified how that could become a game to mimic that experience. So we really try to do that, and then try to take that and not just mimic exactly what we see, try to create something that's exciting that people want to play, that maybe even if they've never thought about animals or anything like that, they're just looking for an exciting, in our case, for this game, a science fiction world that they could get excited about, and then maybe reveal some of those things afterwards. So our company tries our best to build fun games that also maybe have a little bit of depth below them as well.
It's so great. You're right in our backyard. It's amazing. Some of the businesses that are here, right here in Metro Detroit. Scott Brodie with us. He's the founder for Heart-Shaped Games. Scott, anything maybe I didn't ask that you want to add, or how can people find out more about your company and the games?
No, thanks for having us. So you can maybe follow me if you'd like to learn more about what we do day to day. I'm fairly active on Twitter at Brodie Games. You can also go to heartshapedgames.com to see all of our games. And I would love for you to check out We Are the Caretakers, which has just come out recently on Steam. Again, the link there would be on our website. So yeah, we'd love for you guys to check it out and connect with me if you do end up playing.
Well, Scott, we so appreciate your time, and we wish you the best of luck and continued success as well.
Thank you.
Thank you again for being with us. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. Just about 20 minutes left here on the show. And when we come back, the Chief of Police for Keego Harbor will be joining us, talk a little bit more about Police Week. That's next here on the Megacast.
Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful. Because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
In times like these, we have to believe in each other.
And we believe that you'll do the right thing.
When it comes to stopping the spread of COVID.
Follow the 3 W's.
Wear a mask.
Wash your hands.
Watch your distance. And when it's your turn to get the vaccine, take your shot.
It all comes down to the golden rule.
Treat others the way you want to be treated.
We're so close, Michigan.
We can do this together.
Again, we want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. I will say, Tyler, we have some fascinating people. I'm not a gamer. When they talk about some of these games, it really is amazing to me because I'm so old school, but these businesses that are right here in our own backyard.
Yeah, it is really interesting. And there are a lot of these kinds of businesses in video gaming and in other industries that are taking really creative approaches to forming these new businesses during this time and are doing some amazing things right here in the local area.
And I will say, with that, though, we have to remember, though, one industry that is not new is that of our law enforcement community. They've been on the front lines protecting us for a decade, since the beginning of time. And I feel like the industry is struggling right now, but we have to remember this is actual National Police Week. And typically this time of year, members of the law enforcement community and their families go to DC for a very emotional week dedicated to law enforcement officers throughout the country. And we know because of the pandemic, it's not happening the way it normally does. But we also need to take time out and say thank you to our law enforcement officers. And one of those officers, Police Chief John Fitzgerald, joining us on the Megacast. Chief, we want to say thank you for taking time to be with us.
Thanks for having me on, Ronnie.
But also thank you for your service. How long have you been in law enforcement?
Going on 35 years about.
Do you remember that first day on the job?
Actually, I do. And I couldn't have been prouder to put on my uniform and go out and do it. At a certain point in college, I realized what I wanted to do. And I guess it's kind of like when a priest gets a calling or somebody gets that calling and they know what they want to do. That was what I wanted to do. And I was going straight for that from that moment on. And I was so proud when I got my first job, my first badge, and it's been a great career for this many years.
So with that too, we know that sadly, so many people, officers on the front line lose their life protecting the public. And I know that this week is really a time set aside to remember not only those that have lost their lives, but also all of those that serve. What's it like for you being a member of this brotherhood?
Once again, I'm proud. I'm honored to be entrusted with the job that we're supposed to do, and I'm always makes me think a lot. I've been down to the police memorial about 5 different times with my honor guard in Southfield when I worked for that department, and this is kind of a combination. Like for the military, they have Memorial Day and then they have Veterans Day, 2 separate things. This is kind of put together. Police Week. It's I think it was 1962. President Kennedy signed the proclamation to make May 15th Peace Officers Memorial Day, which is in honor of the officers that have passed or been killed in the line of duty, and then also naming the week that May 15th falls on as National Police Week. So that's celebrating all of us that are still here, plus the ones that have given their lives in the line of duty. And to go down to Washington, D.C. for the ceremonies and the honors and the tributes, it's amazing. And hardly a dry eye in the house down there.
It's a very somber time, but also it's the days leading up to some of the services very it's a lot of fun to be had too, because you get to meet with other members of law enforcement agencies from across the country. And I, should mention as well, many people know that my father-in-law was killed in the line of duty long before I met my husband, when Woody was just a small boy. His father's name is on the memorial. So it can be a very emotional time. But can you talk a little bit, Chief, about what this week means in the middle of the civil unrest that we have been experiencing? I feel like more so over the past year, 2 years. And also kind of this, I don't want to say hatred, but distrust of our law enforcement officers. It's got to make the job so challenging.
It's some of the distrust is very disappointing. I would like to say that in our area, number one, the Keego Harbor area, then for my career in Southfield, we had great relationships with our community. And what's been going on in the city of Detroit with Chief Craig and how they've handled all I think the unrest has been kept to a minimum, with people being able to voice their, protest peacefully. And that's what is, we all need to see the protests so we know where the problems are. You have to tell us where the problems are, but to keep it peaceful. And I think our area of the country right here has been pretty well, I don't want to say behaved, but has made their voices heard, but hasn't had the destruction and the problems of other parts of the country. And to hear the complaints, it's disheartening, but it gives us something to work on, because we know in our profession, just like every profession, there are some bad apples, and we want to get those out of. If they sneak in, we want to get rid of them, because this is an honorable profession. We have a duty to do, and there's a lot of people that count on us to be the protectors, but we do far more than that. We serve in many ways with citizens assists and at traffic accidents and notification when there's horrible accidents happen to families. And there's so many different things we do. And we'd like people to understand that, we're not just out here trying to ruin their day with a ticket or an arrest.
Which makes it so hard. I always feel like sometimes firefighters and EMTs are always coming to the rescue. So they're seen as, the hero, and they don't really get the backlash that police officers do, but you really are serving in the same way, because here's what happens. If you see that speeder, you don't stop them. They blow through a stoplight and then they get in an accident and they kill someone, then you'll be blamed for not stopping them. So it really is about protecting and keeping the public safe.
Correct. Yeah. When we're in a neighborhood writing tickets because one of the neighbors has called and said, hey, they're speeding down our street and the kids are playing out here. Well, oftentimes we end up pulling over their neighbor is the one that's doing it, and they're not happy we're giving them a ticket, but it could very well be saving the life of one of those children on the street. Our firefighters, our EMTs do a great job, and we appreciate the fact that they're out there. And we understand that we play a different role that's not always as well loved as they are. So it's not a problem to us that way.
So with that, Chief, if I can ask you, what are your thoughts on the outlook for the industry of law enforcement overall? Not so much in Keego Harbor, because I do think when we're fortunate to live in a smaller community, we appreciate our law enforcement, and you can attract some talent here to some of the smaller departments. But overall, what are your thoughts or even concerns for the law enforcement future?
Well, I think we're always going to need law enforcement. I think that right now we're in a troublesome time, because a lot of people that aren't in it yet, who are considering it, are looking at the problems and the venom spewed at us for the problems that few of us create. But as in Minneapolis, the one guy makes all of police look bad for across the country. People are deciding that they're going to go into another line of work, and they're going to make more money at something that is not going to cause them the hassle. Now, I would never change it. I've thoroughly enjoyed my serving and protecting for all these years, but we are finding less people stepping into the work. We're finding, with governmental budget cuts, we're finding benefits cut, which was always one of the safety things for a police officer or firefighters, that, you went into this knowing you weren't going to make the kind of money a lot of people in private business are going to make. You won't get the bonuses, but you'll have the security after your lifetime of service to a pension or some health care. A lot of that's being taken away. So some of the other incentives, the monetary incentives, have been disappearing for our officers, or the ones that are considering going in. So I'm worried about how many people we're going to get in the pool of applicants, because when I applied to Southfield, there was 1,600 people applied for that job, and they were able to test 600 people and take the cream of the crop out of that. And now I was just talking to another chief of a pretty good sized department around here this morning, and for an opening, they maybe get 40 applications. And then when they start going through the applications for the backgrounds and you're down to 10 people that you might be able to select from. And it is cut down on, and a lot of quality people are putting in for, and a lot of people that call in that still feel this is what they should be doing. But, it's a little bit rough right now at this point in time.
And we just want to encourage anyone that is out there and you're thinking about going into law enforcement, please consider it, because it is a very noble profession. And we know there are bad eggs that make everyone look bad. It happens in journalism. We know that happens, but with that too, we need to support those that are on the front lines, because I will tell you, there's no way I could go through and survive a day on the job of what police officers see. You see the worst of humanity, but also the best of humanity, but the entire time. In today's day and age, you're videotaped the entire time you are in that uniform and on that job. And we all know that things can be taken out of context. I would be in trouble a million times a day.
That's, and that's not bad that we're being held accountable now. That people can hold us more accountable with video. Of course, there's some editing, creative editing that goes on that may not make us look the best. And you don't see the videos. Nobody's posting the videos of when an officer does that small thing of helping a kid put his chain back on his bike, or when a officer, dives in a car accident and try and pull somebody out. That rarely makes the news. But of the bad things that happen and the shootings we get involved in and the arrests we have to make, they number in the thousands a year. If you look at our contacts with the public over all police work, we're in millions of contacts that end well and peacefully and end with citizens satisfied. Millions of contacts a year, compared to the couple thousand that have bad outcomes. And we hate to be involved in those, but the vast majority of what we do doesn't really get shown, but the people that it affects do appreciate it. And we get a lot of thank yous from people too. So we're happy to hear that.
So with that, this week being Police Week, what are your thoughts that you want to share with the community?
All our officers really appreciate it when you walk by and say thank you when we're at a table having lunch or whatever. Any little sign of appreciation of a thank you or a handshake is makes us feel much better about what we're doing out here. I constantly think about the officers that have been killed in the line of duty. As a matter of fact, during Police Week, there's been 4 officers in the country shot to death just this week during the Police Week. And I go back to my time of being at the memorial with officers from Hazel Park, and Officer Jessica Wilson was killed, and going in a procession with them with a patrol car door from Hazel Park to the memorial to celebrate her life and what she did. So that's what's on my mind this week.
Those are hard moments. We know, especially in the city of Detroit, they have lost so many officers over the past 4 or 5 years. And sadly, they now even have a car, the Camaro that they got that has become their memorial car that they put the officers' names on, and when you're a reporter, you're a police officer, I've been on both sides with ATF. We had 2 agents shot. Luckily, they both survived, but being on that back side and seeing what happens behind the scenes when you have these critical incidents, and really the support of the community matters. So we know that people out there struggle with supporting law enforcement, but I still remember something Chief Craig said once: if you want to change something, be the change. Don't talk about it. If you want to change the police department, you want to change an organization, then join that organization, because you're not going to change it from the outside. You change it from the inside.
I couldn't have said it better. Chief Craig said a lot of things very well. So, and that's a great one right there. You
Yeah,
worded it well yourself.
And with that too, Chief Craig, were you as surprised as I was of his announcement of retirement?
I wasn't, and I've been impressed by the job he has done in Detroit, the great job he's done down there, and most of the Chiefs I know, as a matter of fact, all the Chiefs I talk to are impressed with the job he's done, and I hope that his successor follows a lot of lessons as his, and hopefully maybe it was even a protege of his, because it's gonna be hard to fill his boots down there with how well he's done.
It definitely is. Well, Chief Fitzgerald, we want to say thank you again for taking time to be with us. And again, thank you to the entire team over there at the Keego Harbor Police Department for taking care of us here in the community. And thank you for your time to the last minute. So we're going to let you go, and then we'll take a quick break and come back and wrap up the show.
Can I just say, I appreciate you bringing me on about Police Week, and I'll in memorial of the officers that have given their lives for the country. And thanks for having me on about that.
You're welcome. We'll see you again.
We'll see you, Ronnie.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful. Because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Thank you for taking time to be with us on the Thursday edition of the Megacast. And just as a reminder to let you know that the 33rd annual Candlelight Vigil is actually going to be held virtually this year due to COVID-19. It's going to be taking place tonight, May 13th, to honor fallen officers. And you can find that. It's going to be starting at 8 p.m. this evening. And if you just go ahead and Google, it's going to be the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund sponsors that event. So the Candlelight Vigil this year will again be virtual. Tyler, a very emotional week for law enforcement officers throughout the country as they pay tribute to those that have died in the line of duty. So again, just as a reminder to anyone out there, despite feelings on law enforcement, just understand that so many people go into this industry to support and protect and serve us, people they don't know. Just say thank you. Maybe drop off some cookies.
Yeah, and an emotional week for them. Definitely, they celebrate those that they have worked with, real people that they've had real relationships with, that have either fallen in the line of duty or have passed away after their duty is complete. It's always an emotional week. We've participated in some productions of Candlelight Vigils during Police Week in the past, and we also do the West Bloomfield Police Department's Police Memorial every year. And regardless of the situation, if it's a fallen officer that fallen officer's funeral, or if it is just celebrating those that have fallen either in the line of duty or after their duty. It's always emotional for those officers. So our thoughts are with them this week as they celebrate the lives of those that they have worked with and they have lost.
So with that, always a great show. The conversation sometimes on the Megacast goes everywhere, but it's great to see so many diverse companies here in the greater Metro Detroit area and all the work that they're doing to survive the pandemic. We'll be back again tomorrow for the Friday edition starting at 10 a.m. This has been the Megacast.